I think you know this meeting is being recorded. It's being recorded because not everyone can attend a meeting, and we're recording this meeting and putting it on our website so that people who haven't been able to come to the meeting, or indeed people that are not able to write down every word that we say at super fast speed, so that you can look at it again and ask yourself, what did they say about that? What was that pearl of wisdom? I hope we have pearls of wisdom. You can run back, and this recording will be very prominent on the website. Okay. We do have, how many people have we got in the room? 40 or 50 people in the room. That means that when we get to questions, it's going to be quite hard, and it could take the entire meeting if 50 people all asked a question and it took a couple of minutes to ask the question and a couple of minutes to answer it. So I really invite you to use the chat button. You will see on the toolbar along the top of your screen, there's a little sort of bubble that says chat. If you click on that, you will see, and I know there are lots of very experienced Teams people in the room, but if you're not so experienced, if you click on that, a box will open up, and that will enable you to just type in the question that you want to ask. And what our colleagues will do, our colleagues will then group those questions so that we can take them as a group. So if we've got lots of people asking questions about overhead costs and budgets, we'll group those and then we'll answer it. I will, of course, if people are really desperate to voice a question, I will bring you in. But if you can, please use the chat and we will try to cover all of the questions off. Okay, that's all of the technical stuff. We will begin. My name is Jane Knight. I am the arts lead at the County Council. I am going to be taking us through the schedule today. I am missing my wonderful colleague, Jane Austen, who has COVID and is not able to attend. So I know a lot of you know Jane and you will miss her in the room. I miss her in the room, but we are a team and we are more than able to cover for her. So please don't worry, and please don't feel that museums are not represented. We have the whole team in the room. We have Lucy, who you will know from AFSM, and we have Tom, who you will know from AFSM Newsletter and from Cultural and Creative Newsletter. And we have a few other colleagues in the room as well, who I will introduce when we come to them. Okay, so the really exciting thing about today is that we are talking about how to tell us that you have got a really great project. And I do absolutely believe, and I know that across Suffolk, there are lots of creative and cultural people. There are arts organisations, there are freelancers, there are museums, and that you create the fantastic cultural experiences that we have in this county. I also know that there's a difference between writing an application and delivering a really great cultural experience. And what we want to do today is bridge that gap so that you can look at this fund, you can use the application process to really tell us what you're good at, what you want to do, and for us to really understand it and not miss a good project. The worst thing that can happen in a grant making process is that good projects go unseen and don't get funded and don't get recognised. And this really, the overarching purpose of today is to stop that happening and to be sure that you can do your best with the application process, that we can see the brilliant project that you want to deliver, and we can do our best to try to fund it. Now, what we do expect is that this fund will be oversubscribed. It will be competitive. So it's also really important that you put in a great bid so that we can work out which ones we need to prioritize. And I know it's really tough when you work on an application and you don't get funded. But what we will do, we will report back to the county council that we had more applications if we get more applications, and we will report back that they were all scoring really high. So we will use that information to make the case for investment in the arts and in museums. So we want you to put in brilliant applications, and we want to have that great picture of what's possible in Suffolk, and we know that there's a lot that is possible. I need at this point to acknowledge that for some people in the room, this represents a really big change. The County Council has been core funding arts and museums for some time, and the County Council changed that decision and decided to create project funding. So core funding stops for some organisations, well, for all organisations in Suffolk that were receiving Suffolk County Council money. That funding, that stops at the end of March 2025. And this project funding starts on the 1st of April 2025. So I do acknowledge that there are people in the room for whom this represents a big change. I'm going to now share my screen and show you the website. The way in which we are going to manage this session today is we are going to use the website so that you can see what we are how we're navigating our website. So these aren't PowerPoint slides. What I'm showing you is the front page of the website, and I will explain how the fund works by using the website. So everything that you see on the screen is on the website. So nothing will appear on this screen apart from all our faces that isn't on the website. Brilliant. Okay. I am going to kick off now by looking at the purpose of the fund. So you can see my screen, and what you can see here is this is a new fund to support cultural projects. And the key button is this overview button. When I click this button, and I hope you can see that, colleagues. Has my screen changed?
Yeah, it definitely has.
Yes.
It has. Lovely. So when I'm changing my screen, it's definitely changing. Okay, so then you get to the Culture Project Fund overview. There's lots of information here. I'm scrolling through this for you, but as you scroll down, you get to these fabulous pages. These blue horizontal lines, we call them the accordion. And you click on these and it opens up a very, hopefully, short piece of text that gives you the main information. And we have tried to break up the text on the website so that there's plenty of bite-sized chunks of information. And you can see under here the purpose of the fund. Now, for some of you that came to the consultation workshops, you may remember me asking, what are the County Council's key priorities? And I asked those people, what are the priorities? Because this is Suffolk County Council funding. Therefore, what we need to do is we need to show how arts and museums are meeting Suffolk County Council priorities. It's County Council money, and County Council spends its money on its key priorities. Now, when I've asked people, what are those priorities? People say things like children and young people, social care. Those are all things that the County Council does, but those actual words are not in the priorities. So the priorities are to look after our health and well-being. So that absolutely covers social care, absolutely covers children and young people, absolutely covers families, absolutely covers healthy lifestyles. That's one of our priorities. Next one, strengthen our local economy. Strengthen our local economy. Now, that is about jobs, it's about skills, it's about education, definitely about children and young people. It's definitely about the visitor economy. And we know that culture plays a role in the visitor economy, but culture also plays a role in skills. We know that a cultural education delivers fantastic social skills. So we're absolutely part of strengthening our economy. We're absolutely part of our health and well-being. Our next priority is to protect and enhance the environment. And I've had quite a few people say to me, oh, what does culture do about that? Well, our landscape, the history of Suffolk, is also about the future of Suffolk and the stories that we tell through our museums and through the arts really encourage the public and all of us to think about the environment. And that's when people take action. So we are absolutely the inspiration around protecting and enhancing the environment, and we have a really big role to play in that. The final one, so it's 4 priorities. The final one is to provide value for money for our residents. So this is public money. It's Suffolk County Council money. It comes from our taxes. So we need to provide good value. As it is, arts and culture, arts and museums provide loads of good value, and we do that in multiple ways. We know that we have many, many volunteers working in our sector. That's great value for money. We know that we have multiple funding streams in our sector. We know that lots of projects will have different funding attached to them. And that means that our projects are pulling in national money, often national money, Arts Council money, National Lottery money, Heritage Lottery money, into our county. If you weren't bidding for that money, it wouldn't come into our county. So that is also very much part of the value for money criteria. So when we are thinking about the purpose of the fund, and I've just switched pages now because there's more information, it's these 4 key priorities: health and well-being, the economy, protecting the environment, value for money. Now, we know that all of you in the room contribute to those priorities. When you have your conversation with us, if you're feeling nervous about that, ask us, discuss it with us, and we will help you. On the website, we've just put here a handful of examples under each priority to suggest how you might deliver against a priority. So on health and well-being, we actually know that people that take part in cultural activity on a regular basis are much more likely to live a longer, healthier life. That has been proven through international and national research. So actually encouraging more people to take part in cultural activity regularly is bang on health and well-being. Health and well-being might be projects that deliver directly to vulnerable people. And vulnerable people can be older people, lonely people, people living in isolated areas, people on a very low income. You tell us what that vulnerability is. Using culture to support healthy behaviours, that's that regular cultural activity. And activities that are designed to really reach those that are in need. So that's health and well-being. Those are just examples. You can see here that we've got intergenerational projects that might bring older people and younger people together. What about a county-wide singing project that works with pregnant women? That's actually a national project that has fantastic mental health outcomes. Older people come into your space who might want to train and be volunteers. These are all examples of health and well-being. And this section goes on, strengthening the economy. And here we've got more suggestions. Commissioning high quality photographs, perhaps for use on a visitor economy facing website. Social enterprises developing skills. Apprenticeships. Focused on equality and diversity. These are all part of our economy. The environment, we've really spoken about, haven't we? Supporting care for the environment, telling that story. And value for money, external funding, a track record of economies of scale, actually thinking, if I'm doing this project in one place, could I do it in 3 places and deliver it more efficiently and effectively? We want to hear things like that. Okay, so I hope that is landing with you. Those 4 priorities, that's what the money is for. You need to tell us that that's what the money is for. So this links to the next session. The next bit of information I want to talk to you about is the difference between small, medium, and large grants. So I'm just going to change my screen here. And what you will see, you'll see me scrolling back. I go back to the fund overview. I look at this accordion here, and I look at level of funding. And that's the button that will tell you about the different levels of funding. Okay, so I'm going to scroll through these. So large grants are over 15,000 and up to 50,000. So if you want to apply for a large grant, you need to be working in partnership with at least one other organisation. We're going to talk a bit later about the detail of what we mean by a partnership. It's not a legal partnership. It's a collaborative partnership where you're sharing. You need to have a track record of evaluation. You need to be able to show that you've got high quality delivery and community engagement, and you need to be delivering against at least 2 of those county council priorities. So health and well-being, the economy, environment, value for money. You need to be hitting at least 2 of those. And match funding. Now, we heard you when we ran the consultation workshops say that match funding was hard. So you do not have to have match funding. It is not mandatory, but we do like match funding. We do like it, and we will score on it. And that means that when we're looking at your application, we will mark it slightly higher if you've got match funding. So it is important. We have a series of questions which I'll take you through when we look at the budget, where we drill into, have you applied for match funding? Have you applied and been turned down? Why haven't you got match funding? So we do want to have a dialogue with you about match funding, and we do understand that some projects, however good they are and however much they meet our priorities, they might not meet other funders' priorities, and therefore you can't get match funding. So we are up for listening to that. On large grants, we're looking for around 10% of match funding. That's what we would be looking for. So large grants, partnership, evaluation, proper evaluation, evidencing high quality delivery, need to deliver against 2 county council priorities. And if it is match funding, we're looking for 10%. That's a large grant. Okay. Medium grant, 1,500 to 15,000. You can see here, less boxes. No need for the partnership, but if you've got one, tell us, because we do like partnership. But you need to deliver against one of those county council priorities. You need to have an emerging track record. And here we're talking about what we call evidence by testimony. So if you've got letters from people that have taken part in your projects before that say this was fantastic, it was so good, I enjoyed it, it had a big impact on my life, we want to see that. If you have recorded people at the end of a project saying how they felt about it, if you've done a very rough kind of one side of A4 review of what you did and counted numbers and asked a handful of people to tell you how they felt about that project, that's an emerging track record. That's evidence of testimony. It's not a big evaluation report, but it's evidence that you know what you're doing. And that's what we're looking for here. I come back to that point about the best applications that you can put in. We need to know that you know what you're doing, and we want you to give us evidence for that. Now, on the match funding, if it's a medium grant, we're looking for more like 5%. Okay, so 1 county council priority, evidence of testimony, not a big evaluation report, and 5%. And remember, those large grants, 2 county council priorities, a full evaluation, a partnership, and 10%, ideally, match funding. Okay, now we scroll down to the small grants. Look at this, 1 bullet point. You just need to tell us, you give or take, know what you're doing. So we put here, building a track record. You've done something before and you can tell us about it and you've got some evidence. It might be photographs, it might be a recording, it might be letters of support. It's that sort of thing. We need to know that you know what you're doing. And just one point, there's a larger session coming up on evaluation, but you can share with us an evaluation that said you got things wrong. That is not a problem as long as you show to us that you reflected on that and that you are learning from that and doing something different. That's really important, and that, of course, is the purpose of doing an evaluation. So one other thing about the small grants, so you just need to know what you're doing. The other thing about small grants is you do not need to fill out an application form. What you need to do is come and meet with us. We want you then to tell us about your project. We will offer you a grant in principle, and then we will ask you to fill out a small application form. And I will go over that form later. It really is small. And again, it's just asking you, what are you doing? Why do you want to do it? How are you going to deliver it? And how much is it going to cost? So there is a massive difference between applying for £1,500 and applying for £3,000, and a ginormous difference between applying for £1,500 and £25,000. And there's a difference between applying for £12,000 and £18,000. Once you get into that larger grant place, we need more from you. I hope that is starting to make some sense to you, and I'm going to check where we are on time. Okay, let us, okay, actually, Tom, we'll move we will move to, I'm going to stop sharing. So my screen will stop, she says. Yeah, I am stopping sharing. And Tom, if you want to take us through booking a conversation, that would be great. Then we may have time for questions, and then we'll take a little break.
Okay, sure. Thanks, Jane. So booking a conversation, it took us a while to get a booking system sorted, but after a conversation with Suffolk Community Foundation, we've decided on using Microsoft Bookings as they experienced some success with using this with their grants program. So basically, to get to this, you've gone on Culture Project Fund overview. You then scroll down to the green button and click book. So you must book a pre-application conversation with one of the team if you're applying for a medium or large grant. It's not a requirement for small grant applications, but we do encourage you to have a conversation with us if you feel that necessary. It's free advice and it's a really good opportunity. It's not a test at all. It's a great opportunity for you to talk to us about your project and like I say, get some advice in return. So once you click on this button, it will take you to this page. Then if you are applying for an arts project up to £5,000, you will be having a conversation with myself. For museum projects up to £5,000, you'll be having a conversation with Lucy Maxwell. For arts projects between £5,001 and £50,000, that will be a conversation with Jane Knight. And museum projects between £5,001 and £50,000, that will be a conversation with Jane Austen. So if you click on one of the links, it will take you through to this booking page. Then say, for example, if you wanted to book a conversation with me at 11:15 on Friday, you then click on that button, go next, and then input just your name and email address. And this important thing to remember is you can basically have a conversation with us either via Microsoft Teams or you can have a telephone conversation, and it's important to leave your contact number in there if you'd like a telephone conversation with us. Otherwise, it will automatically set up a Teams call. And then once you click that, we'll get a calendar invite in our calendar, and we get a notification 48 hours before we have the conversation. Well, at least I do. That's my sort of settings that I've set up. And if you do experience any issues with this, you can always contact us on our dedicated email address, cultureprojectfund@suffolk.gov.uk. We are experiencing some success with it so far, and we haven't really had any difficulties. But like I say, if you do have any issues, please do let us know. If anyone does, Jane, would it be all right to take any initial questions that we have now, or would you like to save that for?
We will. I'll. If you stop sharing,
yes,
Tom, that will be great. Thank you so much, Tom. That booking makes it so easy for us to have these quick conversations. I've had 20 conversations now, these 15-minute conversations, and they are, you may think, oh, 15 minutes, what's the point in that? Actually, we get a lot done, and it is really, really helpful for all of us. So do get booking your slots in. So there are a couple of questions that I can see in the chat. One of the questions is about bookings, and it's a really important question. When does the booking close? And I believe that we stop having conversations around the 25th of November. I think if you look on my booking page, Tom, you can't book anything after the 25th of November. And because our deadline is the 29th of November for large and medium grants. And therefore, if we don't want people coming to us with 2 days to go saying, I'm just about to do an application, and We won't mind if you're, 3/4 through your application and you've got a quick question and you want to email us or something like that. And but do have do get your conversation booked. And a reminder, it's not a gateway. I have had a conversation with one person and I advised them not to apply. Because I felt they really wouldn't be successful. They said, but are you telling me I can't apply? And I said, absolutely not. It is open. So this is not a gateway conversation. You don't have to prove anything in this conversation. It is a conversation where we get to know what you want to do. You hear from us about the fund, and we move on, and then we log it, and it helps us understand how many bids are coming through. Okay, there's a couple of questions in the chat around how the £500,000 is going to be allocated across the different levels of grant. We are holding back £50,000 for the small grants. So we will be allocating, we're planning to allocate 450,000 to large and medium grants. We haven't broken down that number because we don't know how many applications we're going to get, and we don't know the shape of them. When I talk to you about how we're going to score them, I'll talk a little bit about how we'll group them for the panel and how they'll make that decision. Because we know we're going to be oversubscribed, I just advise people to think carefully about the level of funding that you want to apply for. Apply for the amount of money that you need to deliver a good project. And if there are efficiencies by applying for a bit more money and allows you to deliver a lot more, then that makes absolute sense. But we've got £500,000 for the whole county, £50,000 for small grants. That means if we were to award 9 grants of £50,000, that would be it. And it's very unlikely that that's going to happen. Okay. Any more questions in the chat? No, just about cameras and things. Okay.
There are a couple more, Jane, if we
a couple
have time. So you've sort of covered off that if someone isn't sure if they should go for a medium or a large grant, would you recommend they book a call with you or Jane Austen, and then you can put forward a few different ideas within that call?
Yeah, that is absolutely. If you're thinking, if your project is definitely coming in at 35,000, then it's a £35,000 project. And but if you're thinking, oh, is this a £20,000 project or a £15,000 project? We can talk about that. Or I know some people have come to me and said, look, there's 4 or 5 projects that we could do. We've got a £40,000 project, a £10,000 project, and we've looked at all of them and kind of really tried to think about which one is hitting those priorities, which one might be in an area that would be a priority, and then boil it down to actually where you should focus. One of the questions that has come up a few times is, can we make more than one application? So in other words, I've got 3 projects, different levels. I'd like to apply 4 or 5 times. And that's a no. We need you to decide what you want to apply for, one application. And but we are very, very happy to have a dialogue with you about that in the 15-minute conversations. Are there any more in there, Lucy, that I've missed?
Yeah, there's just one other one which
waiting.
Is waiting, but you'll cover. But do you want to just cover it briefly now as well? That would be good.
Yeah, I will take us through on the website. There is on one of the accordions, and I'll take you to it. how will decisions be made? And that goes through the decision-making process. We have tried to create a process that is very objective. So we are scoring each part of the criteria. So do you have an evaluation? Are you hitting the county council priorities? Do you have a partner? Do you have match funding? We will give you a score out of 5 on that. And then if we've got £3 million worth of projects that are scoring high on everything, we will start to look at place, and we will start to be sure that we've got a range of projects happening across Suffolk and working with a range of groups. But it's hard to say how we'll do that balancing, because it will depend on the basket of projects on the table. If all the projects are about older people, we won't be able to choose any projects for younger people. But we hope we have a basket of projects that reflects the range of work going on. Okay. I see a question, Henry, there about funding. Okay. If you are, that's a good question, Henry. If you have a £20,000 project, if that's the total cost of the project, but you are applying to us for £10,000, the amount that you are applying for is the scale of your project. So that it's what you're bidding to us for. That would mean, Henry, if you had a £20,000 project with £5,000 of match funding, that would be a £15,000 project. It would be £1 under the large project threshold. Large projects are 15,001. And same in terms of income, that will bring your project cost down. So if you need to project on income, and that would bring your project costs down.
Thank you very much.
We will do more on budgets later on, but oh, here we go. We've got a Lindsay question. Does the dialogue need to be one-to-one, or can other people come? You've already answered that, Lucy. Thank you. Yep. We can have, we don't mind how many people you bring to the advice sessions. Okay, I think we should take a 5-minute break. We've been going for 25 minutes. It's online. It's a lot of concentration. Take a breather, get up, jump about, do something creative, and come back at 10:30, please. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. How are we doing? Are we back in the room? Let's hope we've got people back in the room. I know 5 minutes isn't long, but it's enough to do a quick stretch. Welcome back. Welcome back. Everyone's coming back in the room. That's great. Thank you. That's great. Welcome back, everyone. Okay, so to recap, we've covered the overarching purpose of the fund. We've talked about the difference between small, medium and large grants, talked about the importance of booking a conversation. I am now going to welcome my colleague, Natasha Binns, who is going to talk to us about data. And she's going to talk to us about how you tell us that you are meeting a need using data. Now, for many people in the room, you might think, I do not know what Jane just said. How do I demonstrate need using data? That is okay. I promise you that after Tash's session, you will know what that means. But in essence, if you are putting in a proposal, let's say you're putting in a proposal to do a project about food and movement in Kirkley, in Lowestoft, and one of the things that you feel that you are based in Kirkley, one of the things you instinctively feel and know is that people in Kirkley are on a very low income, that access to food and cooking well and access to movement can be very difficult. And you may want to create a project that builds in the creativity of cooking, of sourcing food, of sharing food, of creating a celebration event that brings people together to share food. Now, you've based all of that on your instinct about your community. But is it true? The likelihood is that your instincts about your community are absolutely right. And the data backs up that actually people in Kirkley need a project like that. There are a lot of issues around diet and health, and culture and creative projects can do a lot to address them. That really strengthens your proposal. Rather than, I just think this is needed, actually showing there is a need is really important. And when Tash does her presentation, I can guarantee you will be surprised by some of the data that pops up. There is multiple deprivation in Suffolk. There is a lot of need in Suffolk, and there are many, many things that arts and museums can do to support people to live good, healthy lives. And we really want you to be able to do that. And we want you to know that you're working with people that need your support. So I am going to welcome Tash. She's going to take you through some of the tools. Again, she's going to use the website, and I will also say that using these tools will help you in any application you are making. Most funders want evidence of need. These tools will really help you find that. Yeah, lovely. So, Tash, come on in.
Good
Do
morning.
share your screen and over to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jane. And so, hello everybody, I'm Tash. I work in the Public Health, Knowledge, Intelligence and Evidence team at Suffolk County Council. So our role is to collate data, intelligence, and turn that into insight and hopefully action. And that's what you guys will be doing hopefully as well through your bid. So what I'm going to do is share my screen, and I'm going to drive everything off of the Suffolk County Council website, and specifically that Culture Project Fund webpage, so that you know where is a good starting point. Now, from doing the in-person presentation yesterday, I remember Lucy said that it's only a few key points of evidence and data that you'll need to evidence in your applications. So whilst I'm going to present a lot of information, please remember that this is not something that you're going to have to remember everything, that you're going to have to think, oh my goodness, I need to quote something from every single resource. It's about finding the right resource to support your applications and to support the work that you're doing. There are lots of different routes to finding data and information, and if you get lost or if you get stuck, I'll also give you our contact details so that you can get in touch with either myself, Alison, who's going to present later, or one of the wider team who will be able to assist you in finding the data and intelligence that you need. And finally, because I'm on two screens today, whilst I'm looking at you now, whilst I'm sharing my screen, I'm going to be looking that way, but I promise that I am still paying you attention. It's just that you'll get an unfortunate side profile of me for a little while. So having a look at this Culture Project Fund page, we're going to click on that overview button, and we're going to scroll down to the bottom, and there is a box called People and Communities. And this is going to be your entry point for getting at the data. So there's some information at the top, and then we're going to work down in through the various hyperlinks. The first of these is the Healthy Suffolk website. The Healthy Suffolk website is sort of the home of all things public health and communities, including things such as the Health and Wellbeing Board and projects and campaigns, but very biased, and I'm going to take you to one place and one place in particular, and that's the Joint Strategic Needs Assessment, or JSNA. Our JSNA, we've had to have one. It's a mandatory function, but it collates reports, evidence and intelligence for Suffolk. So what we're going to do is click on that JSNA icon, and all of the content of the JSNA is hinged off of that homepage. So if at any point you get lost, you can just click on that top line menu bar and it will take you there. What you'll see as you scroll down, you'll find a bit of information around what is the JSNA, what's it there to do, a short video about it and what it contains, if that's of interest for a bit of context. But also at the top, we're currently linking to the Suffolk on a page infographic. So if you want some really quick stats, you can click on this. And it's been a bit slow today, so I'm holding my breath in anticipation. There we go. So if you were like, oh, I very much just quickly want some quick overview stats around the population, potentially about the percentage of households in fuel poverty, wider determinants of health, so attainment, or direct public health stats as well. So overweight and obesity on here, some quick stats for you. They're high level there for Suffolk. But it's more likely that you're going to want some more detailed information. So we scroll down, and there is a lot of scrolling currently on this website. We are trying to make that a bit more efficient. And you'll see that our content within our JSNA is organised by theme. So starting well, I focus on children and young people, being well in midlife, generally 25 to 64-year-olds, ageing well, the inequality gap, so looking at health inequalities in particular, place and climate adaptation as well. By clicking on each of these themes, again, you'll get some top line Suffolk information for each. So you'll generally get a summary infographic. So if you know that actually you're going to be targeting children and young people as your focus, and you're focused on Suffolk holistically, then you might find some key stats within this infographic here. You can make that bigger and go to full screen by clicking on these little arrows, and it will give you some more insight and information on those. And I'm going to press escape and hope it goes back. There we go. But there's also more detailed reports relating to children and young people. We recognise within the JSNA that there might be reports that overlap. So you might get something that is both sitting in children and young people or starting well, and potentially place and climate adaptation. And you will find those resources linked in multiple places so that you don't miss them. However, if you're thinking, oh, okay, I don't quite know where to look, but I want to search the whole of the JSNA, there's this button above these themes, and it's the JSNA report index, and it will load a Power BI report which tells you all of the resources on the JSNA. We're going to type in smoking as an example. You can either click on on the search bar. It's having a moment and it's not returning any results. There we go. It's because I added a space after smoking. And it will pull back all the resources that are related to smoking, for example. So you can do keyword searches within this as well. What I would say about any of this content is that you're free to reuse it. You don't have to manipulate it or anything. You can just copy and paste lines out of it, copy and paste the data. What I'd probably say from a referencing perspective is add a hyperlink to where you've got the information from, so it can be tracked back. That makes life a bit easier. But that all of this data and insight is built for you to use, free to reuse. What might be of specific interest to you if you're thinking, oh my goodness, I would like to evidence the impact health and the impact arts and culture and heritage, etc., has on health and well-being. We did a whole annual public health report on that last year, or APHR. You'll find all of those annual public health reports there. So basically, every year, the Director of Public Health has an opportunity to write a report that is of interest to public health in Suffolk, or is of interest to him. It's independent, so it doesn't have to go through all the council mechanisms. Last year, he focused on the working with cultural sector in Suffolk to improve health and well-being. And so what I would say is, if you want some resources around that, you can click on the report in there and it will give you links to some of those key resources, such as the Creative Health Arts for Health and Wellbeing Inquiry, updates to that, some of those key links between arts, culture, heritage, museums and wellbeing, key stats. And again, you can just cut and copy and paste what you need out of this. Please don't, you have to reword lots of stuff. So that's a quick look at our annual public health report. There is other products within the JSNA. Now, there is something called a pharmaceutical needs assessment. I've got to be honest, I doubt that will be relevant to most colleagues on the call, although there is a public survey about pharmacies open on that link. So if you do live in Suffolk and you want to fill that in, that is a shameless plug to fill that survey in. But what may be of interest to you is the place-based needs assessments. Within Suffolk and lots of other places around the country, there are various geographical units, basically, so building blocks of geography that comprise a bigger area. So within Suffolk, there are obviously, Suffolk has an upper tier local authority, but then districts and boroughs within that. There are also smaller geographies, such as, these have got jazzy names, like lower super output areas, middle super output areas, but we also have health geographies. And some of these health geographies are called INTs, or integrated neighbourhood teams. Now, these integrated neighbourhood teams are smaller blocks of geography, and there's the map for them there. So if you think, actually, we spoke about, well, Jane spoke very briefly about Kirkley, and we can zoom in really closely on Kirkley and other data sources. But actually, if you were interested in Lowestoft, for example, you could find more granular data around Lowestoft within these PBNAs. Now, there are two ways to access this. If you want the most up-to-date data, you can use the dashboard focus and dashboard approach. But if you're not a big fan of dashboards and you're okay in terms of compromising the date of the data a tiny bit, then you can look at the PDF summaries as well. These were produced for September 2023. So these are a point-in-time analysis. And it will give you an overview report about all of those different areas that are in the PBNA. It will give you some of that contextual information, so things like ethnicity, population, wider determinants of health, deprivation that we spoke about, housing affordability. Apologies, I'm just going to mute, there we go, and other information within that report as well. However, if you like a stat and you like an interactive stat, then the dashboard is going to be your friend here. You can click on any of these areas. So let's go into demographics. It will fire up a report and hopefully it'll be a bit speedy. There we go. You can navigate via the contents page. There's also a little grey bar at the bottom, but sometimes that can be a bit hidden. So contents is a good option for this. Let's have a quick look at, you can look at the map. And let's have a look at Lowestoft. So we click on Lowestoft, it will think about it for a little while, and then it will filter out Lowestoft, and you can start zooming around and clicking on things. So there's the population for this. I mentioned those funny geographies called LSOAs. There we go. The LSOA name, East Suffolk 001E, very catchy, and the population number there. But you can also look at things like that, those populations of, so this is, let's go into Lowestoft as a whole here. So the population of the selected area around that 74,500 mark. You can break that down by age. So if you have an initiative and you think specifically want to target 30 to 34-year-olds in Lowestoft, how many are there? And what's the proportion of the population? You can start breaking down the data in that manner as well. Also ethnicity data, both broad ethnic group, and if you click on those little plus signs, it will break that down further. And so there are really options to dive into the data via those place-based needs assessments. And I'm just going to close that down. You can't break anything on the JSNA, I say. I've tried many times, not on purpose, but accidentally. But the worst case scenario, it freezes. Then you can just refresh the page, close it down, come back into it. You can also use the navigation bars at the top of the website to get back to that main JSNA page. I've mentioned the PBNAs. JSNA blog, if you want some high-level information on what's going on within the JSNA, what we've recently published, do have a look at that. It's open to everybody. Suffolk Tiles is that overall graphic that we looked at earlier, but excitingly, a plug for Suffolk Local Insight. And you can also access this via that main drop down. So use this tool to look at village level data. Will take you directly to Local Insight, I believe. I'm going to just check. Yes, it does. Fantastic. So you can either access it through the JSNA homepage or directly through that link. What does it do? Data on a map. Fab. We really like data on a map. So it's quite accessible, easy to look at, and easy to think about. Oh gosh, what's my area? So I'm going to use those circle navigation buttons, we'll call them buttons, to get at some of that data. So first of all, I clicked on that second one down, which if you hover over, it'll tell you broadly what it does. So data. Let's have a look at deprivation data. So she says, I'm going to click down on deprivation. Now, the most widely used deprivation tool is the Index of Multiple Deprivation, part of the indices of deprivation. You'll notice that it says 2019. That is still the latest data available using that IMD. It's due to be updated next year. It's been put off for quite a while now, and that I think is a higher government decision. But for the purposes of this, the IMD is the latest deprivation information available. Now, what I can do here is I can hover over areas and it will tell me more about them, but the little green eye top right of the screen is really handy. So I am going to go for those lower layer super output areas, LSOAs. I'm going to then lock that layer by pressing on that padlock key, and it's going to give me that IMD, that deprivation data at the most detailed level. Display data visualizations. No, I'm going to toggle that off, and it's going to turn my data on for outside the Suffolk area. So then I'm feeling a bit more focused on Suffolk as well. And I'm going to go back to Lowestoft. You've put that idea in my head now, Jane, and that's what we're going to stick with. That's what we're running with. So you can start looking at deprivation. So generally, when we're looking about the deprivation, the lower the rank, so if we're looking at the 1 to 6, that 6,500 ranking, that's going to be your most deprived areas, and your greens are your least deprived areas. So you can see, you can evidence there that actually Lowestoft experiences higher relative deprivation, especially in these more urbanised areas. Here you can hover over this, so Lowestoft, Harbour and Kirkley, LSOA, and you can see that's ranking of at 64, so very deprived relatively speaking. What's great about this as well, you can, if you want, plonk some services. I think that plonk is the technical term for this. So let's pop, let's find GP surgeries and put those on. And you'll see that those blue markers then come up. We can zoom in further, and it will start plotting those. So they're not the clearest there, but those two little black crosses are GP services there. What's great, I think, about Local Insight is the ability, and I've got no technical term for this other than it looks like a pokey thing at the bottom, which is the bottom circle icon, is an option to share your map, and this will create a shareable link. So actually, if you looked at this map and said, here's my deprivation, I can now evidence that there's higher deprivation in this area, you could utilize that link, copy and paste it into your document and say, this is the evidence for that, to support that. So you don't even have to specifically pull out numbers and percentages. You can use those graphical information as your data sources as well. You can pull out specific reports. And again, let's have a little look. East Suffolk. Let's have a look at what we've got. Harbour, Kirkley and Pakefield. It's generating a report. So again, this was a point and click job. Aggregating could take a few minutes, didn't today. Fabulous. It will give you a map of your area that it's covering. And then it will give you some stats that you can pull out and use as well. So again, those population data, the IMD, so indices, index of multiple deprivation that we've had a look at on the map. It will tell you, relatively speaking, so how deprived is Kirkley and Pakefield relative to East Suffolk, and then England, more, higher chart. So you can evidence it via that way. You can look at unemployment, housing, and these are all automatically populating. You can use that top right corner to download the report as well. So it may be that you can utilise that report as your evidence rather than having to delve into lots of stats and do lots of manipulation yourself. So I'm going to just come out of that report option. It's going to ask me to log in. That's interesting. It won't ask you to do that, but the joy of Local Insight, I'll just pop it in there and it will do that again, and we'll go back to where we were. So there are really lots of options with Local Insight, and I mentioned deprivation, but there's loads of stuff in here. There's loads of census information as well. Digital might be interesting as well. So looking at populations that might be digitally excluded, for example, very red map, that one. So we're going to just, to get at any of the data in this, you can click on that little green eye. If you want to find out more about the data, where's it from? What's this all about? Click on details. It will give you more of a detailed description of it. It will tell you where the data has originally come from, because there's a lot of the data we don't collect ourselves, well, most of it in fact, but we get it from somewhere else and we aggregate it and populate it somewhere. You can find out more information on that as well. So that's a little bit about Local Insight. And I'm going to take us on another journey now via these links. So we've looked at Healthy Suffolk. We've had a little look at, use this tool to look at village level data, that's at Local Insight. JSNA, a range of health needs, it will also get you back to that JSNA link. There is another source, and that's the Suffolk Observatory. Come on, clicking it. What you will notice is there's lots of different ways to get very similar information. And again, that's why I said if you use those URL links, that will ensure that we know what information you have referenced, because sometimes the dates of the data can change slightly, which means you look at a slightly different source information. So all I would say is cut and copy your URL or where you've got the data from. But the Suffolk Observatory enables you to get at a lot of data in a similar way, but it's what suits you. Where you want to get that data from. So we're going to go into the quick ward profile to start with. There we go, Kirkley. And the quick ward profile will give you some aggregated information on a range of different areas within the Suffolk Observatory website. You can get at specific themed area information through that drop-down menu bar as well. Similar to Local Insight, it's blue this time, but it'll do the same thing. Clicking on the eye will give you information about where the data's come from, when it was last updated, a link to the original data source, etc. And then you'll get your range of data, your information. You can export charts as images. There's a little camera button. It will download it for you. You can get at the raw data and download that by clicking on the little grey things. They're quite small, but you can get the data out, or you can use a snipping tool and just snip what you want. So I always have a snipping tool on here, and I will just give an example of that. I can just take a snip and then it will give me my chart that I can chuck in my document. So quick ward profile from the Suffolk Observatory homepage, that will get you there. If you thought, actually, I'm really focused on something that's going to help with economy and employment, and each of these themed reports operate in the same manner, so you can get at the information the same way, but this is focused on economy, you'll get your entry page, which will always be Suffolk level. You can get at maps. But what might be of most interest to colleagues on this call is the area reports option. And that is because when it gets there, you get all your different geographies that you can view the data at. So we've mentioned LSOAs, but wards, we had a look at that quick ward profile. If you want to go big health geographies, there's integrated care systems and areas within that. There's safer neighbourhood teams, county electoral divisions and other geographies as well. Let's go for a district. You want something potentially that covers all of Ipswich. We'll click on that and it will populate that report for Ipswich. It will give you key information. It will give you comparative data, so you can look and then compare and say, is this higher or lower than Suffolk and England? Is this area an outlier? Is this what's going to demonstrate the value added to my project? If I say, for example, let's have a little look at somewhere interesting. People working part-time in Ipswich is lower for females than Suffolk and England. Okay, that's the data I want. I'm going to evidence that. So you can really look at pulling out that data from the Suffolk Observatory in that way as well. There's something very fun about, well, there's lots of things fun about data, but I am biased, but something really fun about the Suffolk Observatory is the ability to build your own custom areas within this website as well. So if we go to that custom area report, and we just give it a moment to load, I am going to click on the draw a point option on this. I can't make it any bigger on my screen at the moment, so apologies for that. But what I'm going to do is click some areas. And what's great about this is that now it's created that custom area for those 3 areas that I clicked on, and I can get at my reports by the same theme again. So those themes from the drop down. Let's click on health for this one. And as you'll see, it's now aggregated those 3 areas together into one and produced the data for it. So that's a really helpful tool as well. Apologies if you can hear background noise. People are having a conversation right next to me, which is quite off-putting, but we'll continue onwards. So you can get all of that data. Interesting in this health is provision of unpaid care, also an interesting indicator. And what I would say, I mentioned that I would tell you how to contact us. So on the Suffolk Observatory, there's a contacts button. This will go to the SODA email address box, so the Suffolk Office for Data and Analytics, but you can also get at us through that. If there's any questions that are relevant to our team, they'll forward that on. And then just on the JSNA website that I spoke about, there's a contact option here. And you can fill in those contact details and that will get to us as well. I appreciate I've shown you quite a lot of data in those minutes. It can be quite overwhelming. So that offer is there that if you wish to ask us a specific question about the data and information contained, if you feel a bit lost, we can help you navigate that. Please do get in touch with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tash. That is absolutely fantastic. And I do hope that people were able to see there, you know, these moments of clarity. And what I really encourage you to do, and what I've absolutely done myself, is if you can take a couple of hours to literally play with this stuff, you start to find the information that speaks to you, that speaks to your sense of what you're trying to address in the community that you're working, and that speaks to what you know you can support. It is a really interesting journey to do a deep dive into those reports, and it returns to you a lot of evidence and of need, and it tells a very objective story about need in our community. And of course, we have a lot of subjective dialogue about need in the community. Sometimes that is incredibly helpful, but when we need to be objective, this data is absolute gold and it will help you in other applications. So I do hope that that deep dive was really helpful to you. Remember, this session is being recorded. So when you're thinking, what did that fabulous woman say about that data? You can scroll to, where are we? We're in an hour and a quarter. So it will have been an hour in, and you will find this bit and you can look at it and go, okay, I'm clicking there, I'm doing it. And you can dig into that data. And your applications going forward will have the objectivity that becomes very, very persuasive. So do engage with that. Thank you. Thank you so much, Tash. It's so helpful and really terrific to have you working with us on this. I now have the pleasure of introducing two more colleagues. Alison Matthews, who is a colleague of Natasha's from our Knowledge and Intelligence team, and Lucy Walker, who is a colleague in our Arts and Museums team and is the Association for Suffolk Museums project officer. And Lucy and Alison are going to talk to you about evaluation. And remember, if you're going for a large grant, you need to have an evaluation that you can share with us. And if you're going for a large or medium grant in your application, you need to tell us how you're going to evaluate your project. And Alison and Lucy are going to really help you with that now. Welcome, Alison and Lucy.
Hello, I think Alison's gonna turn her camera on as well, but yeah, I'll just begin by sort of yeah, just saying you might think it's odd that we're talking about evaluation of a project that you guys are still forming in your head or seeking funding for, but it's because on the application form we ask you to both look back and look forward. So the County Council, because it's public funding, need that evidence of a track record that we've been talking about. So we do ask you to provide varying levels of evaluation of something from the past, as well as how you intend to evaluate the project you're actually going for this time. And I think it should also be stated that, you know, we are going to go through a few different ways of doing evaluation, but if you are an organisation that's already extremely well versed in this, we accept your evaluation methods. You know, just share a report that you have done for a different funder in the past, you know, that's totally fine. And also, as Jane has mentioned, yeah, freelancers can apply. Obviously, you might not have formal evaluation in the same way if your role has been as a freelancer on a previous project. But if you're able to ask an organisation you worked with to share something that you can use to evidence that impact of your work, that's really helpful to us. So I will just share my screen and just go through very basically on our website the different types of evaluation we're looking for the different size of grants. And then if Alison is here, she can go through a couple of documents.
I'm here.
You're here. Oh, brilliant. Okay, I just can't see you. That's fine. Don't worry. All right. Okay, I'll finish doing my bit and then I'll hand over. So just share the screen. There we go. Okay. So hopefully by now this page is looking pretty familiar to you. On this page is the overview, and then just below, if you already know which size grant you're going for, these are sort of our quick links to the different size of grants. So in small applications, so these are just the £1,500 ones. When you have a chat with us in the new year, we will just be asking you to talk about your project in general terms, but I start here because actually whichever level of grant you're applying for, you will need to sort of describe the people you expect to reach, how you will reach them, how they will benefit, and you will need to describe what you've done before and show evidence that this has been done. So our session, mine and Alison's, is just saying you are already doing this, because if you're a freelancer or an organisation that thinks in the long term, each time you do a project, you will already be doing this in one way or another, because you will want to build on work you've done previously to have more impact next time. So as Alison, I think, will also say, don't worry when we get into the tools for this section, because even if what you can do is sort of write what you've done before and how you want to do it better, that will give us the evidence that we need, particularly if you're going for a smaller amount of funding. So that's all you need to do on the small grants. For the medium grants, let's just go back here. Medium grants. Be patient or not. Yeah. So for medium grants, we go down here. As Jane has mentioned, this is the accordion, and we can open up the evaluation section here. So for those medium grants, if you need a keyword, that would be testimony. So this can be evaluation of previous projects that are written surveys, or comments in your visitor books. If you're sort of a museum that has had a visitor book for a previous exhibition or project, it can be, support from, like, say, local councillors who've attended an event. It can be all kinds of, like, a body of written testimony, rather than totally data driven. We like data, as you can tell. So if you are able to also include impacts in that way, that strengthens your application. But we recognise that if you're going for, more like a sort of £3,000 grant, if you can just tell us how a previous project has worked through testimony, then that's brilliant. That works for us. So, and then just finally for me on the large grant applications, again, we're still on the website, we're just scrolling down, and again, within here, there's a section on evaluation, and you can see that the wording is different. We expect you to use sort of nationally recognised tools, which is sort of what Alison is going to go into. And yeah, I think it's just remembering on the application form to sort of divide that answer up between proving that you've done something before and evaluated it, and then a description of how you would evaluate the project you're applying for. So I think that's it from me, and I'm going to hand over to Alison now to go through a few more bits from this.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to start sharing my screen. So you will recognise this page completely. I hope you can see my screen.
Yeah, we can see it.
Yep. Excellent. So I've moved down to the evaluation section. Sorry, I'm in the medium grant applications. I've moved down to the evaluation section, and there you can see there are these two toolkits. One is the Council's Measuring Impact toolkit, which I feel is a little unfair, because I think lots of people were involved in developing this, particularly the Association for Suffolk Museums, and I don't know if there's anybody on this call that may have actually been involved in some of the groups that were held to put this together. This is fantastic. It's very comprehensive. It covers a lot, and it's 103 pages. So if you like evaluation and project development, come and have a look at this. If that sounds a little bit daunting, you will be pleased to know we've managed to cut it down to 2 pages. There's also, if you like the sound of 103 pages, there is the link to the Culture, Health and Wellbeing Alliance, and they have links to lots of different resources on evaluation, the Public Health England evaluation framework for arts, different tools that you can use. WEMWEBS, which is very popular it's the Warwick Edinburgh Mental Wellbeing Scale, for a way of seeing the impact of different interventions on people's mental health. So there are a lot of tools available. If you're going for one of the large grants and you want to, you're not sure where to start on a tool, this culture, health and wellbeing organisation's website is great. But you can just have a quick look through the summary of the toolkit. And what I should have started with before I told you that there were 103 pages and then about 30 different separate tools that you could be using is I should have said, don't panic. You are doing this already. As Lucy said, you are already evaluating it, especially for the applications. I think the maximum number of words is suggested to be 500, 750 on what you're going to do for evaluation. So you just need to be showing that you've considered it and that you've got a plan of what you're going to do.
Alison,
yes.
Could you zoom in a little bit on that document,
yes,
just so we can read it a bit
actually
more?
read a bit.
Yeah, that would be.
How's that going?
That's looking much better. Yeah, perfect.
Wonderful, thank you. So this is the summary of that 103 page document, and what we've done is we've put references to the pages in the main document. So if you want a bit more detail, you know where to go to in the main document, and it covers through summaries of the different sections. So you don't need to tell Jane and the team why arts are important. You can skip that. We know arts are important and have an impact. The evaluation is about how will you know your project is a success? What was the impact? Was the impact what you expected it to be? It might be completely different from what you originally planned. That's fine. Can you measure changes? As Lucy and Tash have said, and Jane, we do like figures, but it may not be things you can count. It may be people's feelings, people's emotions, their well-being. And there are different tools to measure those. Who did your project reach? Again, was it who you were targeting? Was it who you expected? What would you do differently? Again, which is really important. I'm sure you, like me, can get slightly fed up or feel slightly inadequate when you see those case studies that go, everything went marvelously. We achieved everything we wanted to. We are wonderful. It's really useful for other organisations to learn from those. Actually, we thought we were going to be targeting this particular demographic. We got a completely different group. They still had a great time. They learned a lot, but it wasn't what we originally planned to do. We'll do this next time. And was the money spent wisely? So types of valuation, I said the quantitative, what we can count, the qualitative, the feelings, which you can gather through surveys. You could gather through quick feedback from, catching people as they leave your event and asking them a few questions. You could give them a QR code to a survey to fill out. But when you're doing those measuring things like qualitative, it can be really useful to have a baseline. If you're only measuring how people feel at the end of the project, you don't know whether you've changed how they were feeling. So part of the reason for starting now is to say, start thinking about what you should be gathering before you start. That might be how your community is in general. If the community that you are basing your project is experiencing, I don't know, increasing levels of depression and anxiety, and you put in a project and the people when they start are feeling like this and the people when they end are feeling like this, you might think, oh, it's not got any better. But if you know in the rest of the population people are feeling worse, you've done great because you've stopped your group feeling as bad as everybody else was. Case studies are great as well. Stories. I come from the knowledge intelligence evidence team. We're very used to talking traditionally using numbers. I still think some of the most powerful facts that I've remembered have been because somebody has told me a story instead. So you can use your case studies. You can give your examples as well as part of your evaluation. So before you apply, how are you going to know whether it worked? And have you got the right systems in place to keep records? Have you got permission? Have you got consent? Have you told people that you're going to be taking photos and using them? Have you made sure you've got consent for survey data and to quote what people say about you later? Can you follow up with people? Have you got their email addresses so you can check what the impact was 2 weeks later? if you're organising an event, have you got a baseline for who your audience normally is, so you can see how many new people you got in and whether they were from different areas that you normally get people from, or a different age band. Use what you do already. The risk of things like this is I go, there are all these tools, there is all this stuff you can be doing, and you end up measuring something that you have never measured before in your life. If you've never measured it before in your life, it's either not important, don't do it, or just check what you've been evaluating so far. But I'm sure everybody here has already been doing good evaluation, even if it's just for yourselves and you've not been sharing it. So don't suddenly start, I don't know, counting the number of people that walked into your meeting with handbags, if that's not going to demonstrate that you're meeting one of your objectives or one of the county council's objectives. During the project, gather all that information. I always find we tend to think about evaluation at the end, and then we go, oh, if only we'd asked, if only we'd made a note of that. You can think of other ways of trying to gather the information. It may be that you ask your volunteers what they noticed. It may be that you notice that your staff are feeling differently or engaging differently with different groups of people than they were before you staged your project. Those are all valuable evaluation tools as well. It doesn't just need to be about your participants. And be aware that the impacts might be unexpected. I don't know if Becky's still on the call, but I went to Folk East this year with my sister and my niece, and I would have expected, if somebody had asked me how I evaluated my experience, to have focused on the quality of the music and which bands I got to see. Going with a 10-year-old, I can talk at length about how good the craft workshops were and the different painting opportunities. So bear in mind that people will take different things from your event, and that's great. There's a little bit there again about what did it cost, and those unexpected changes, and the importance of having your baseline. That's it. Basically, don't wait till the end. You don't need that much detail at the beginning, but you do need to have thought about it and have a plan in place, basically for yourself, so that you know you've got the right information at the end. And don't panic. I will just show you, I'll go back to the medium grant application. This is the same for the medium and for the large. Though obviously, as Jane and Lucy said, for the large, you need to be using some of those more nationally recognised tools. If you want to use it in your medium one, that's wonderful. If you want to use it and it's any of those and it's a very small grant, that's also just great. You'll still want to know whether it worked. With £500. So we've got some suggested evaluation questions. This is a little bit different because it comes as a document, a Word document, and so it's over here in your downloads. Oops, that's not what you need to see. You need to see something else I'm working on. Let's see if that's load. There you go. Let me get that one back. You don't have to answer all of these. This is to read while you've got a cup of coffee or a glass of wine and you're just thinking about how you might want to be evaluating. You can go through some of these. It's examples of what things you might count, who you might be having an impact on. How did you manage, risks, challenges? What were the unexpected benefits and the expected ones? What was the impact on you and on your organisation? And I'm just going to hand back to Lucy, because I forgot to do this yesterday, to have a quiet word about some of the other ways that the information will be used.
Yep, just to say that we mostly this is all about your project, but if you are offered a grant within that award letter, we'll also be sort of letting you know what Suffolk County Council will ask you at the end about the process. So some of that will be about the project itself, and some of it will just be kind of, did you find the briefing useful? back in October, things like that, so that we know. There was a question earlier about whether this is the first year of this fund and whether we know it will run in the future. We don't know that because the council budget is decided annually, but we are hopeful. We will argue for it. So again, we will ask you some questions that just relate to how it went, so that if we get the chance to run this for a second year and beyond, we can make it better for you guys. So yeah, I think that's just a little note in the mind that there'll be a few more questions coming along if you're offered a grant. But otherwise, I think Jane, are you okay? If there are any questions that have come through about evaluation, I think you've written most of the answers, haven't you, to people? Are there any you want to say to the group?
There have been a few questions. We have been answering them in the chat box. I think there's a really important one from Steve Saltaire, where you ask if the evaluation reveals a different outcome. So, Steve, I've answered that, but I just want to say to the group, we are asking you to tell us that you know what you're doing by sharing with us what you've done before. So we're asking you to bring evidence to the table that what you're proposing, that there's a really good chance you will deliver the outcomes that you're planning on delivering. We all know that things change. We know that. And so if you go ahead with your project in good faith and it doesn't deliver what we all believed, given the evidence, given your track record, it was going to deliver, we will all learn from that. But we will not punish you by not paying your final grant payment, because that would be wrong. And as long as you have set out to deliver as long as you've spent the money in the way you said, and everything has been done in good faith, but something changed. And things do change. And I think what we all want to be able to do is deliver learning. Also, I will say things do change, but often what does happen is we achieve way, way, way more than we ever thought we would achieve. And we also need a way of capturing that big thing that happens that nobody actually anticipated. And that's where we get back to testimony and the story, isn't it, Alison and Lucy? And, this is not, we do not live in a world where we can just say we're going to deliver something and it absolutely happens and there is no difference to it. We are working with people, we're working with communities, we're working creatively, that we recognize that. And but it is very, very rare for a project an arts or museums project to completely fail. Very rare. And very rare indeed. Okay. I am going to thank Alison and Lucy. Thank you so much. That was very helpful. Again, everything that Alison and Lucy have been alerting you to, I hope will help you in other funding applications. This is a set of tools for being good at telling your story to a funder. Before we have another break, I'm going to talk to you about budgets. And so the break is coming. And I welcome your attention. I'm going to share my screen, and here it goes. So I hope that people can see this. So at a very, very basic level, we need to know how much money you need to carry out your project. And we need to know how you're going to spend your money. Now, we use language like income and expenditure. And I know there's a very wide range of people in the room. And I just want to be sure that everybody has the same level of skill. By income, we mean any money that is coming into your project. That might be earned income by selling tickets or merchandise. It might be match funding that you've applied for successfully that comes into the project. So it's money coming in. When we talk about expenditure, that is money going out. That is the money that you are spending on delivering the project. Now, what happens in a budget, and we are looking for a budget where you are planning to spend £20,000, for example. You have £10,000 coming in, which is income. Perhaps that income is match funding, perhaps it's some earned income. You're applying for £10,000. So you've got one big project of expenditure. We don't want to know in that £20,000 project that this £10,000 is what Suffolk County Council is paying for. What we are wanting is for your project to be delivered. So our £10,000, the £10,000 that you're applying to us for, is contributing to all of those costs. That's what we mean when we ask you to give us an income and expenditure budget. If your project is £20,000 worth of project, but you need £10,000 from us, show the whole £20,000 of spend and show where that income is coming from. And this is what you will see in this form, and I will scroll down. We ask you the total project cost, and we ask you to tell us what the item is, what the cost is, any additional information. This is the most basic form you can possibly imagine. Same on income. Now, what we all know is that budgets can get complicated. We want you to make these forms complicated. You tell us what you are spending your money on, and give us all the detail. We want all the detail. We want to understand where the money is going. If you use Excel to do your budgets, then, or indeed anything else, you can attach your budget. You do not have to use this form, but what we do need to know what you are spending your money on, and we do need to know where the income is coming from. But you can tell us that. You give us the detail. Actually, Jane and I, we have seen so many budgets in different formats. We are very skilled at reading budgets. So we need to know that you understand your budget, and then we will understand your budget. So when you're telling us what you're doing, please break down those costs. Let us understand how you have got to a figure. So say you have artist fees in your budget. Don't just put £8,000. Please tell us, how much are you paying them? How many artists are you employing? And how long are you employing them for? And what are you paying them? And that will give us a real sense of how your project is working. There's no limit to the detail that we want on this. You give us your detailed budget. That's the first thing to really, really, really remember. Now, on your screen, this paragraph here is very important, and I want to draw your attention to it. So I said at the beginning of this that the County Council is from the 1st of April will no longer be funding core organisational costs. We are now funding projects. However, we recognise that we will not have projects if we don't have organisations. And we recognise that organisations have everyday running costs. Some of you may be familiar with terms like full cost recovery. Some of you may not be familiar with that. I'm going to just spend a wee bit of time talking about what that means. As more and more funders want to fund projects and not core costs, there is a challenge for organisations to find a way to, at a very basic level, pay their heating costs, pay their telephone costs, pay for staff that are involved in administering things but not direct project delivery, pay for your Wi-Fi costs, pay for the cost of opening the doors every day. These are the everyday running costs of an organisation. If we take, as an example, an arts centre that is applying to our fund to put on a workshop for young people who are not in education, employment or training, and to deliver a skills workshop for those young people. If that arts centre is doing that, we would want to see the project costs, the costs of paying the artists to run that workshop, the costs of giving those young people a cup of tea and a biscuit when they come in, the cost of attracting those people, doing the marketing, getting them in the room. Those are the actual project costs. The cost of that arts centre, coming up with the idea, coming to this meeting, looking at this application, applying for funding, that's all in your everyday costs. That's in your staff costs. That's your Wi-Fi costs. That's your heating costs. And we know that you need a way of covering those costs. Now, full cost recovery is a series of relatively complicated calculations, where if you were applying for a project for £10,000, but your overall running costs for the year are £100,000, then you would be saying this project is just 10% of your overall running costs, and you would start to work out 10% of your heating costs, 10% of this, 10% of that, and come to a figure. We have decided not to ask you to do a complex calculation on your overall running costs. One, because we would have to check it, and two, because you would have to do it. We want to keep this simple. Therefore, we are welcoming you to add an additional 10% to your project delivery costs. So if your project, if the fees to the artists, the cup of tea, the marketing, all of that, if that project, if you're adding up that project and it comes to £10,000, that's your actual delivery costs, paying the people that are going to deliver that. You can put on top of that 10%, so £1,000, to cover the everyday running costs of your organisation. So your bid to us in that case, if you were asking us to cover the £10,000 cost of running the project, your bid to us would be for £11,000. If you were bringing in match funding, if your costs were £15,000 and £10,000 of those costs were being covered by a Suffolk County Council grant and £5,000 from another grant, you could add on £1,000 again. So only 10% of what you are applying to the County Council for. We would expect your other match funders also to have a view on full cost recovery or everyday running costs. And the major funders, Arts Council, Heritage Lottery, do accept these costs as well. So you look at the actual delivery costs, the additional money that you need to deliver something, And then you take 10% of that, and in your budget, you say, this is our everyday running costs. And that becomes your total bid. That does not mean if your total project costs are 50,000, that does not mean you can bid for 55,000. You need to still keep within the limits of the budget. And you have to keep within the limits of the £15,000. If you are applying for £15,000 and that includes that everyday running costs, you're a medium grant. If it takes you to £16,000, then you need to complete the large grant application. This is it. I know that if you do not, if you're not familiar with this, it can feel confusing. So I am very happy to welcome live questions on this issue right now. I am also very happy for you to think about it. And then when we get to the end of this session, I will answer a question on it. Also, all of us on the team, very happy for you to, when you have your one-to-one conversation, to ask us about it and check in with us what that means for your organisation. Are there any hands up? Do people have any immediate questions around that everyday running costs?
There are a couple in the chat, Jane.
Are there? Do you want to point me to them, Lucy?
Yeah, so just it's about whether in-kind funding is part of your income.
It is not. So we are not wanting you to budget for in-kind. We don't want you to put in-kind in your expenditure, and we don't want you to put in-kind into your income. You can tell us in your in the detail of your project how much in-kind support you have, because we do value in-kind, but we do not want to see monetary value put against it, and we do not want the budgets. We want the budgets to be about cash.
Great. And then another good question about project management costs, and whether you see project management as a project cost or as having to be wrapped into that everyday running cost.
Project management, projects have to be managed. Projects take staff time, and that needs to be built in. We need to see a reasonable cost. So if you've got a project with £10,000 of delivery costs, and you say that the management costs are £5,000, that's a bit high. That's way too high. And so we need you to think about reasonable costs. Remember, one of our criteria is value for money, and so think carefully, how much time is it going to take to manage a project? You may be bringing in freelancers, you may be using staff that you've already got. That is absolutely fine to include that as an actual cost if it is specifically to deliver that project.
Okay, and then another question. So are you expected to include everyday running costs? I think we're saying up to 10%.
You don't need to break it down.
To, yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to. You're welcome to. And for some people, you may think, I don't have everyday running costs. I'm freelance. Each project stands as it stands. That is up to you to reflect on that. But you are welcome to add 10% onto your bid based on the cost of actually delivering your project. And this is good practice in funding. It is enabling our sector to be stronger and more resilient. We do recognise that you do need to build up costs that cover the overall cost of being in existence. And we know that project funding comes and goes. Any other questions in there?
There are. I think we need to speak very clearly, because I think so Tony's asked, so core staff time can be an additional to the 10% for overheads. Is that correct or
if
not?
it's project delivery costs, yes. If you have got a full-time team of drama workers and they are going to be working for 3 weeks delivering this project, that is project delivery. Absolutely project delivery. They are frontline in front of those young people running those costs. That is absolutely appropriate. So that is delivery. Be very clear, delivery is something that has to happen to make that project work. And it is those absolute frontline costs.
Okay, and a couple more if we can.
Yep.
So if a freelancer is applying rather than an organisation, would you say that they also have valid project delivery costs that they could also include?
Yes, and it is up to that freelancer to make that case and to pitch up to that 10% mark. And you will have your costs, but are you already costing out your daily rate to cover your overall running costs? So if you're costing out at £350 a day, maybe you've already included your everyday running costs in that fee. That's for you to reflect on. One thing to say about budgets, not all funders do this, but we will do this. We will look at the nuts and bolts of the budget, and we will come back to you. We'll come back to you in 2 ways. One, if we think you've over budgeted and we don't think it's value for money, we'll come back to you. We don't really want you to do that, but I think that within our sector we know about value for money, we understand it. But if we think that it doesn't look like value for money, we could come back to you if we really like the project. We may also, because we expect to be oversubscribed, we may also look at your project and think we can't fund the whole thing, but we can maybe fund a smaller version. And therefore we'll look very closely at your budget, and we will and we may come back to you and say thank you for your bid for £20,000. We would like to offer you £10,000. Can you come back to us and tell us what you can deliver for that? Now, again, we've had to think carefully about that. For example, the Arts Council do not do that. If they do not have enough money to fund everything that they've had applications for, you get a rejection and you get welcomed to apply again. We will not do that. We will try and see if we can fund more people by reducing some of the costs. And I know that's quite tough, but it does allow you to do something. I'm not expecting that we're going to be coming back to everybody and asking for different budgets, because that would be chaos. But I am saying that we are people. We are going to look at this. We are going to try and get this budget to work as hard as it can work and to deliver as much good projects as we can fund. That's our job. Anything else in there, Lucy?
I think there's one about whether you want people in the application form to talk about how the match funding is covering running costs. I think the answer to that is that if we know we're only covering a certain amount of the running costs, so I mean we'll assume therefore other running costs are being covered by match funding or your earned income. But yeah, set out as many lines as you feel sort of make sense, I suppose, to give us a full picture of the project.
That's it. And we're not taking responsibility for all your running costs. We're just saying we recognise that if all funders allow you to ask for 10% to cover your everyday running costs, wouldn't life be a bit better? That's the principle. And quite a few funders are doing this. Okay, I'm going to stop on that now. Let it brew, because it is something to get your head round. Remember, value for money is important, but also we need you to survive. If we don't have any of you, if we don't have any organisations, we don't have any projects, we're all dead in the water. Okay. We are going to move on from budgets, and we should really have a quick break before we talk about partnerships. We've gone over a little bit, but can you come back just after 10:02? It's 11:46, so if you could be back in the room by kind of 11:51, 11:52, that would be brilliant. Take a break, think about budgets, think about evaluation, jump about, get a cup of coffee, and come back for that final 45 minutes. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back. Hello. We're nearly there. We're in the last 40 minutes of finding out about this fund. Come on in. Back in the room. Quick glass of water. Quick freshen up. Look away from the screen. Brilliant. We're back in the room. I am going to share my screen, and you are going to see this. And I am going to talk to you now about partnerships. When we were talking about large, medium, small grants, you will remember that we talked about the fact that for large grants, you need to have some sort of partnership in place. Now, what do we mean by that? And here we go. We're on the large grants section of the website. You can see me scrolling down, talking about all sorts of things. And here we go. Here's our accordion. And as if by magic, all the things that you need to think about, they're actually on this accordion. If you've got questions in your head when you're doing this, go to the accordion. It should have headlines that direct you. So this paragraph here is really important. So we want these large grants to support activities that are delivered with people working in partnership. So remember, large grants, you've got to have a track record. You've got to know what you're doing. You've got to be able to prove that you know what you're doing. But we really do know that with cultural projects, particularly projects that are about reaching people, collaboration and partnership is a very important part of any project. So building connections between organizations and creating partnerships that will deliver a real impact is something that we really do value. So, for example, at a very simple level, you may be doing a project, let's say, with ex-offenders. And your project may be about developing confidence and employability skills with ex-offenders. We would think that to deliver that project, you might need a partnership with the probation service in some shape or form. How are you going to reach those ex-offenders? How are you going to get involved with them? Have you reached out to people who are working with ex-offenders? Might be the probation service, maybe a range of other services. And how are they going to support you to reach those people and do good work? And indeed, are they working with you to deliver good work? We have a project across Suffolk that is a great example of this, and some of you may know it or have been part of it. It's a project called Joy at the Job Centre. And this project is really about reaching people who are some of the most vulnerable people financially. So these are people who are using the job centre, who are on regular benefits and are reporting to the job centre. Ipswich Museums, by forming a partnership with the job centre, was able to go into the job centre and deliver with a very wide range of arts and museum partners from across Ipswich, deliver creative activity in the job centre. Now, with that example, that means we knew they were going to reach those people because they were right there. And the job centre was right behind them on deciding what time of day they should be there, how long they should be there for, and in telling them what the needs of the people in that space would be. So that's the value of the partnership. It's about reaching people, and we want to know that you are working with people, again, that know what they're doing and are helping you shape your project. Now, we've used the word partnership, and we are not thinking here about formal co-production agreements. We are not thinking here about legal partnerships. We are not even saying that you have to have a memorandum of understanding. What we are saying is that your partner needs to be prepared to say, I am supporting this project. I am supporting this project by welcoming the project into the job centre. I'm supporting this project with information about the needs of the target audience. I am supporting this project, and I have seen this organisation deliver. So we do want all our applications for the larger grants. Your applications do need a letter of support from at least one partner that shows that you have a relationship, that you work together, that you know what you're doing, and that you have a collaboration in place. Now, I do hope that I'm going to stop sharing. I do hope that is landing with people, and that people see the value in that, and that people can think about the partnerships that they've got. Remember, this is only about large grants. We still value partnership working. Even if you're going for a small grant, if you've got a partner on board, tell us and get that letter of support. It's not a requirement for a small grant or a medium grant, but tell us about it. It adds value to your project. Another example at a very simple level, you could be a museum with a project in your immediate locality that is around encouraging and supporting children and parents to come into the museum. You may form a partnership with the local school. The school might be your partner, who welcomes you into assembly, who gives you access to the book bags and to put a leaflet in the book bag, that brings you into parents' evening to do something interesting and make it a bit more fun and enjoyable. So these partnerships can work at very different levels, but they add value to what we do. I hope that is landing with people and makes sense. We're going to come to questions at the end now. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take you through the application. So Brace for Impact, and I'm going to share again, and I am going to share the application form. I'm going to go right up. This is, I've chosen to share the large grant because it's got all the questions on it. I will alert you to the ones that are specifically about large and not the medium ones. So, reminder of the deadline. Please don't miss the deadline. It'd be so devastating. And right at the front, we do want you to tell us how much you're applying for. Remember, that's how much you're applying for, not the full cost of your project. And then this is all the basic stuff. Here's all the eligibility stuff. Remember, this is an arts and museums fund. So it is about people doing arts and museums activity. It's absolutely open to freelancers and a range of different models. We just need to know what model you are. We're asking you about whether you've got rules, whether you've got management committee, whether you've got accounts, whether you've got 2 signatories. We need to know all of this. We are not asking you, and we need to know about the policies that you've got. We know that freelancers have a very different way of working, and that there are smaller organizations who may not have all of this. Please be very honest when you are answering these questions. We are not asking you to attach all of this to your applications. We do not need to see your accounts. We do not need to see your safeguarding policy. We do not need to see this before you apply. But if we are, oh dear, what's happened there? If we are offering you a grant, we may ask you to see these things. So be honest. If you haven't got a policy for safeguarding, and if you're proposing a project where you're working directly with children, young people, or vulnerable people, I would say you need to get one, or it might be impossible for us to fund you. But if you haven't got one, don't tell us you have got one, and because we may well ask for it. And just in terms of up here, the stuff about signatories and accounts. Again, we're going to ask you for that information if we offer you a grant, because it will impact how we pay you. If you're a freelancer with a single bank account and you've successfully secured a grant of £50,000, we will not pay it to you all in one go. But we will work out the right way to release that money to you. And that's us doing our due diligence. So please be honest when you answer these questions, and then it will make it very easy for us to follow up. Then we get into the straightforward questions about what kind of organisation are you? Is this a new project, continuation of an established project, or a development? Again, this is an important set of boxes. A lot of funders do not support the continuation of an established project. We do. So if you've got something and you do it really well, and you are always chasing project funding for it, this is come to us. That is fine. Not all funders want to do that, as you know. And then we start asking you about the project details. We give you a word count. I'm just going to be really honest about this. I can't imagine that I am going to count the words, even though there's a very simple tool. But I do need you to count the words. And please, if you have written a really concise description of your project and it comes out at 551 words, don't spend half an hour editing out those 51 words. It's fine. And but equally, don't send me 1,000 words. I will notice. And we do need you to get it down concisely. But we are people. This is not AI. We're not doing a character count, and we do want to be able to read it. So again, we're asking you 500 words. I think we really feel 500 words should do it, and it's a good indicator about how much detail we need. We're anticipating that you can tell us these answers in this amount of text. And again, remember, we are poachers and gamekeepers. All of us on the team apply for funding as well as manage this funding. And so we know how it feels writing an application. So we are asking you, absolutely, which people or communities are you trying to engage with? Remember that session with Tash? Do tell us here that you've used Suffolk Observatory. You're working in, I'm going to say Kirkley Ward again. You've identified the need. You know what that need is, and you know how you're going to meet it. Here we go. Evaluation. We said you need to have evaluation. You got to tell us about your previous projects. You've got to attach an evaluation, and you've got to tell us how you are going to evaluate your project. So again, this is the large application. We will not be asking you this in the medium application. We will be asking you to do an evaluation, but we won't be going into the detail of the track record and the formal evaluation. We'll be asking you for testimony. Partnership working. we've just covered this. Here's the reminder. Tell us about that partnership. Tell us how it works. We don't need legal agreements, but we do need to know how it works, what your partner brings into the room. If we're thinking, how do they know about working with ex-offenders? Have they got the knowledge to do this? This is where you tell us that you've got that great partner. And this is where you attach that letter of support and we hear about how you're working together. We haven't said a lot today about equality, diversity and inclusion. It is really important. It runs through everything that we do. It's a skewer that runs through everything that we do. And we need to know that your project is going to be inclusive, that it's going to be accessible, and that you are paying absolute regard to equality. And we particularly need to know this if you are working with a marginalized community. We need to know how you are engaging with that community. We would really like to see leaders from that community fully engaged in the project. That would be one of your partners. If your project is about a very specific community and that need, we need to know that you understand the equality, diversity and inclusion principles that will deliver a good project. And again, if you're thinking, oh, I'm not sure what all that means, there is lots of information out there, but bring it up when we have our 15-minute conversations, and we will give you plenty of support in that area. Okay, we're getting now to the budget. We've already been through the budget. Again, how much money do you need to carry out the project? That's not the full project cost if you've got match funding. It's what you're applying to us for. I've said all of this before. Give us your budget. Give us all the detail, loads of detail. We want to see where the money's going. We are going to apply that value for money criteria. We're going to look really carefully at your budget. Match funding. Okay, we've talked about this before. You don't have to have match funding, but we do need to know you have tried one way or another, or why you haven't tried. So there's a series of questions that we need you to answer. These are very important, because if we look at the budget and go, oh, no match funding, we'll hear why here. So we're asking you, if you've got match funding, who's match funding and how much you've got, straightforward. If you've identified match funding in your budget, tell us how much you've applied for, who you've applied to, when the decisions will be made, and tell us if you've already done it and your application has been unsuccessful. You might feel, oh, I don't want to tell them that another funder didn't fund it. But actually what we know is there's not enough money in the system right now. And Arts Council, for example, does not have any priority areas in Suffolk. A lot of great projects are being turned down right now because of that. So we will not say, oh, your project can't be any good because the Arts Council have turned you down. The opposite. We will say you have tried to get match funding. You have tried, and because of competition in the marketplace and because of other funders' policies and priorities, you haven't got it. So tell us. We really won't be judgy about that. We want to know that you've applied. If you're just identifying match funding but you haven't yet applied, tell us why you've identified, when you plan to apply, when decisions will be made. And then finally, this box this question's really important. If you haven't identified match funding and you're not going to apply, and basically there isn't going to be any, please tell us why. Tell us why you don't think you'll get match funding. And there may be a myriad of reasons for that. I know there are many organisations in the room who are applying for project funding, every month. and you have multiple streams of match funding coming into your organisation, and you may not be allowed to apply for any more match funding. The funder, you may have maxed out on the funding that you can apply for from the Arts Council, for example, or from the Heritage Lottery Fund. Tell us that. I can't apply for any more of that funding. I've already got so many projects on. We need to know why you don't think. And you may be telling us, my project is innovative, it's new, it's breaking new ground, and Suffolk County Council, if you fund it, it will then get some evidence that will enable me to draw in some national funding for a really important project. We're really keen to hear that. So we would not have agreed that match funding is not essential if we didn't mean it. So, tell us why you haven't got match funding if you haven't got it. Here, the final bit is about the project milestones, and that's just to give us an overview of when things are going to happen, when things are going to be delivered, and we will use that to inform our thinking about your payment schedule. Straightforward. And I believe, here we go, sign it off. And email it to us. So it's this is a Word document. It's on the website. Download it, save it, email it to us by the deadline, please, with all the attachments. Okay, that is all of a large application. Remember, partnerships and evaluation does not come into the medium grants and the small project fund. Remember, no application to begin with. We will make an award on principle, and then we have a very small 3-page form. We ask you to describe your project in 300 words, and you can see that on our website. I am going to stop sharing that and keep an eye on the time. Okay, I'm going to move on because I can see the time moving on, and I do want to tell you about the decision-making process. And I'm going to share my screen again. Hold tight. Here we go. I am sharing, and I am sharing this. Okay, you should be able to see that now. Here I am, show you where I am. I'm in large grant applications. Scroll down, scroll down. You know what I'm going to say. The lovely accordion will answer all your queries. And here we go. How will decisions be made? This is actually important, and you can you need to be aware of it when you're writing your application. Okay, so me and my terrific colleague, Jane Austen, we will score the applications using a scoring criteria that is on the website, and I'm going to take you through it. And you will see that people scoring up to a certain amount will be presented to the panel. And but therefore, if you're not hitting all the buttons, you won't go to panel. Jane and I are only scoring. We are not making recommendations. The panel will be asked to prioritise projects with the highest scores, and then will be asked to ensure that the fund supports high quality projects that are spread across the county, cover a range of the council's priorities, and engage people at a different range of life stages. So children and young people, older people, people at different life stages. The panel, our panel is Councillor Philip Fairclough-Mutton. He is our Cabinet Lead for Culture. Sarah Lungley from Community Action Suffolk, Anna Hughes from the Community Foundation, Tony Calladine, who's the Regional Director East for Historic England, and Stephen Crocker, who is the Chief Exec and Creative Director of Norwich Theatre. Those two are our specialists. Sarah and Anna are people that know about funding. Tony and Stephen also know about that. And Katie Sargent is our manager, and she is going to chair the panel. The panel is the decision-making body. Okay. I'm going to open up now this assessment sheet, and I'm imagining that you can't see that, or can you, Lucy? Can you see the assessment sheet?
Yeah, we can see that. Yeah.
Oh, you can. Fantastic. Okay, so this is how Jane and I will score a large application. So it's a miracle, isn't it? We've told you, you have to hit 2 Suffolk County Council priorities. We're going to score you out of 5, whether you're doing that or not. We've told you you have to have a track record of evaluation. We're going to score you out of 5, whether you've done that. We've told you you need to identify need using some data. We're going to score you out of 5 on that. We've told you you need to have the ability to deliver direct to a community or area of need that relates to the evidence. We're going to score you. Can you do it? Do you know what you're doing? We've told you we are going to score you on cash match funding, and but it's not essential. And we are going to score you on partnership working. So we use a 0 to 5 score, and here it is. So 5 points. You're outstanding if you contribute directly to 2 of Suffolk County Council priorities. We can see a direct link. That you've got a track record, you've got evaluation using nationally recognised models that shows an impact. You know what you're doing, you're evaluated. You get scored 5 if you can identify a need. You've clearly identified the need, you understand the need, and it reflects local, regional, or national data. Okay, local, regional, national data. You might be doing a project, say, with people with Parkinson's. So you might be looking at national data around that need. That's fine. People with Parkinson's have the same needs in Suffolk as they do anywhere else. Strong evidence of ability to deliver directly to that community of area of need. If you are working with people with Parkinson's, have you done it before? Do you know what you're doing? Have you got a track record? 10% match funding secured. That gets you 5 points. And a partnership in place with a track record of collaboration. These get you all the 5 points. Then it starts to reduce a bit. So that's outstanding. Then we get to excellent. 4 points. You really get those SCC priorities, and we can see the link. Track record is there. Yep, you've ID'd the need. Yep, you've applied for 10% of match funding. Partnership in place with collaboration. Good 4 points for each of those. Then we get to a good application. Good application. It's giving us confidence that you know what you're doing and that you can deliver what you're up to. You've got good understanding of the Suffolk County Council priorities. We're confident you're going to deliver. You've got a track record. You've used some recognised models. We can see an impact. Might not be a significant impact, but we can see it. You've identified the need. You've reflecting on local regional data. You've got a plan to deliver directly. Look at this. Go back to here. You've got evidence for your 4 points. You've got evidence that you can deliver. And up here, you've got strong evidence that you can deliver. So these are nuanced scores. So where are we getting to? I'm sorry, we've got the good. We've got the good. Anything below good is unlikely to go to panel, I tell you. So an acceptable application. Okay, yeah, you get the priorities. You've got your own model of evaluation, and you can show some impact. You've identified the need, but you haven't used any data. You've got a plan to deliver, and you've got a partnership in place. And you have given us a reason why there's no match funding possible. Okay, so that would get you 2 points. And then here we get into less than satisfactory, and that is there's not enough support there. And then we get to unacceptable, no understanding, no track record, no identification of need, no points. I hope you can see, I know I'm galloping through that, go back up the top here. So SCC priorities, you get your 5 points if you're directly. Then we move on to evaluation. You might hit 5 on the priorities, but when you get to evaluation, you might be right down here. You might just be okay-ish, acceptable on that. So we will put together a basket of scores for your project. And you need to score on the large applications at least 12 out of 30 to go to panel. And depending on the number of applications that we've got, we will take to panel the best applications. So I might be very nerdy when I am applying, but when a funder gives me their scoring framework, I write my application and then I attempt to score it. And that is a way of just checking yourself and making sure, come right back to the beginning of this session, really making sure that you have told your full story and that we are not scoring you as 0 or 2 or 1 when actually you're really brilliant at what you do and you should be outstanding, but we haven't understood you properly. That will be a failure on both of our parts, I feel. I'm going to stop sharing. Thank you so much for your patience. We've had a really long session. We've been in the room nearly 3 hours, give or take. We have got some time for questions. I know my colleagues will have been looking at the chat box. What have we got, Lucy?
So one about what happens afterwards. So will organisations and freelancers be able to ask for their scores to see kind of how they did afterwards?
Yes. When we send you the letter telling you whether you've been successful or unsuccessful, we will give you your scores. And anybody that had funding through our COVID Culture Fund, you will have received a letter like that with our scores. It's really tough if you've scored low, you know, but that is part of the learning. And I really hope that because we've done these briefings and we've got the pre-app conversations, that we really help you to be brilliant. We want to be overwhelmed with brilliant applications. We do, you know, that's what we really want. We don't want to tell you that you don't know what you're doing, and because I don't think you do. Any others, Lucy?
We'll give people a couple more minutes to write them. Just a point from me when we were going through the application form about people you're engaging, people you're reaching. This might be particularly relevant for museums, but please remember you are a community yourselves. If you have volunteers and your project is actually about getting more people involved behind the scenes and cataloguing, or, you know, putting together a new display, like that is a community project as well. So the data looks like you have to like look outwards the whole time. But remember, you know, that you're all part of communities already. And so you can use the data actually, because it's it can be about rural isolation or, you know, lack of social contact time, GP visits for loneliness. You can use that data, but it might be that the people who are going to benefit are already known to you, mostly within your organisation. Okay, and then just a quick question about whether, well, will we send the slides? I can answer this one. We haven't been using slides. Everything has been through the publicly accessible council website. So this recording will go onto that website, and you'll basically, if you're able to just kind of track through that recording, you'll see the different pages come up, but there hasn't been a presentation for this session.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Lucy. And Lucy, your point there about recognizing that you are a community. These are the things that you can come to the 15-minute conversations, as we said at the top, with your vulnerabilities. We're not judging you in those conversations. You can come to those conversations and say, I don't know how to prove that need. And we will talk you through that. And it may be that we will advise you not to apply, as I said before, but that is better than you wasting your time. And it might be that we encourage you to make an application for a small grant so that you can build up the work that you're doing. And it may be that you are completely undervaluing what you do, and we tell you, you've got loads of data, tell us all of that. And we will try to coach you to make a really good application. All right. Thank you. Thank you, everybody who is in the room. Thank you for coming. And thank you to my colleagues, to Lucy and Tom and Alison and Tash. This is a team effort. And get well soon, Jane Austen. And please, everybody in the room, me and Jane and Lucy and Tom, we are nothing without you. We don't have jobs. We have absolutely nothing to do if we don't have a sector, if we don't have freelancers, if we don't have independent museums, if we don't have volunteers that do things, if we don't have art centres, if we don't have theatres and dance houses and galleries, if we don't have organisations creating projects and doing things, we are nothing. This is actually all about you. It's not about us, it's about you, and it is about managing money. And it's public money, and it's public money for arts and museums. Thank you for attending. Looking forward to getting those applications. Take care, bye-bye.